Excited to get back out there tomorrow night. Great to be back at home. Looking forward to the challenge of playing Iowa. Had a good workout yesterday. Guys were good. Had good energy. Building. Some guys have really built off how they practiced and played on Saturday. Especially some guys that came off our bench on Saturday. Did it again yesterday, and it was good to see some consistency with that. Thought we practiced really hard yesterday, and today we'll go hard again and short. But we've got to play better. Guys know that. Looking back at the film from Saturday, my biggest concern was that 7-minute stretch in the first half, beginning of second half, where we turned it 7 times and got outscored 23-8. A lot of those points that Michigan were able to accumulate during that spurt were off of our turnovers. And certainly a couple of them were forced, but I thought 4 or 5 of them were unforced and just too sloppy. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, and I just thought we did that too much with our sloppiness with the ball. That's been uncharacteristic of us the first part of the Big Ten schedule, as I mentioned to you, with 61 turns in 6 games. I thought we made a lot of progress there, but that snipered us a little bit on Saturday. I thought that was a real difference in the game. Obviously now we move into tomorrow playing Iowa. Young team. Really have enjoyed watching them play. They're a team that I watched Bohannon. I saw him play in AAU as well. I really like his game. I like his toughness. I like his IQ. Obviously Jock is as good a scorer and jump shooter as there is in the country. You got to be aware of him. Their bigs continue to get better. Have a great appreciation for Nicholas Baer's game. Leads them in rebounds, steals, and assists, and just seems to be a guy that really plays the right way, plays with great IQ. And then they're deep. Their bench minutes, I think are 16th or 17th in the country. They go 11 deep. They're playing 11, guys night in, night out. So, be a good challenge for us. Obviously, they change defenses quite a bit, so recognition of that is important. They always play really fast, and they get you in transition. You got to get back. We got to block out and rebound. Got to do the little things well heading into tomorrow, and certainly that'll be the emphasis not only yesterday, but it will be today as well. Questions?
John, with all the inconsistency you talked about with some of the individuals, how difficult has that been for you to kind of find a rotation or stick with a rotation?
Yeah, obviously I'd like for it to be a little bit more consistent, but I kind of knew for a while now, based on watching preseason practice, that we were going to be a team that's a strength in numbers team. I knew that. I could tell that. I saw that. Certain guys have certain strengths in certain areas. Based on what our team needs, based on who the opponent is, based on the matchups. I felt that way in the preseason watching us as we finished it, more so probably, Jeremy, than I had about any team that I had coached. That can be challenging from the standpoint of consistency with that rotation. It also can be a blessing that we have, I've been on the other end too, where there's very little to no depth. I don't think necessarily in some of the situations for us, guys have just outdistanced other guys and it's just dead obvious, or, sometimes I'd like it to be more so. But then like I said, sometimes I remind myself too that it's great that we have those options and great that we have that depth.
Given how you can do different things, go big, go small, run up and down court or slow it down, do you ever think of do you ever think, oh, maybe we should go to one extreme or the other? Do you like kind of being able to do everything?
I like being able to adjust and adapt based on the game, but I also think there's a fine line there. There's, I'd like for certain players, certain lineups to be more consistent, to stand out. An example of that, I'll just give you one example. There were some other guys as well, would be, Mike Thorne on Saturday played. And he was an absolute load in practice leading into the game. Just almost to the point where, he's giving you that vibe with the way he's playing, like, you got to play me. That's how he played. And we need guys to do that all the time, and have be more consistent with that. But some of it is based on opponents, some of it is based on instincts and feel, based on what the team needs at that time. And if you're asking, can that be challenging at times, sure, it can be challenging. It's a delicate balance.
Where is Tijon on your consistent meter, and how's he progressing defensively?
Yeah, I mean, he's really well. He graded out well again. He's been very consistent defensively. He's doing a nice job of making our team better, makes good decisions, has really, I think, developed in the trust of his teammates and trust of the staff.
I guess since we're on the consistency theme, I mean, with this team, maybe at this point of the season, did you ever think that you have to be talking about consistency as much, and is that a concern?
Well, you hope not. In terms of, the offense and defensive part, obviously Jeremy's question was more directed towards, personnel rotations. But, regardless of who's out there, I'd like to see more consistency with our defense and our offense. We've had games where our defense has been tremendous. We've had games where our defense has lacked. We've had games where our offense has been tremendous. We've had games where it's not been as good. We go, like I said, 61 turns in 6 games. About any coach would take that, and then you have 17 the other day. And they forced some of them, and so give them credit. But statistically speaking, if you just look at it objectively, Michigan is not in the top ranks in the nation and just forcing a ton of turnovers. So I've got to attribute some of that to us. We've got to be a lot less sloppy with the ball, especially in that stretch that I mentioned. So, no question, that's something that, we want to see better consistency offensively, defensively, taking care of the ball, been consistent for about 5 games, and then the other day, we lapsed in that area, and I thought it really cost us.
This is a quick follow-up. I mean, it's not going to be perfect all the time, ever, but is there something you can point to where the execution on either end's kind of been up and down?
Because it's been different areas, Scott, that's been the most challenging. Obviously early in the year, we talked a lot in here, and certainly with our group, about taking care of the ball. We were struggling in that area. Then we improved in that area. Then I thought we had a lapse the other day in that area. Defensively, I do think even the other day, when our defense was able to get set, and if you take the points off turnovers out of the equation, our defense was pretty good. Grade out showed that. Felt pretty good about it watching the film, but when you come down and lose the ball and a guy goes in and shoots a 1-0 layup, or it's a 2-on-1, those are really, really difficult. It makes it harder to get to where you want to go. I was talking to Tijon yesterday after practice, and he's a Green Bay Packers fan, and I was out recruiting on Sunday, so I was talking to him about the game. Obviously he's from Wisconsin, and he said, yeah, we got down early, and I didn't watch the game, so I may be off on a few things here, but interception, a missed field goal, bad field position. And I said, yeah, that's like basketball. You turn the ball over like that, you put yourself in a nice little hole. So it's no different. And I thought that was certainly the case the other day with the game.
John, talk about team goals at the start of the season. We asked you about them, and we talked about the tournament, and you said that's a goal every year. Sure. For us and so forth. Where are you on those things now? Are those things still?
We're not. And the guys have those things. We don't talk about those things once we outline them and they're motivators. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, that's why we've got the analogy of climbing the ladder. We're going to take one step at a time, and we got to play better than we played the other day. That's our focus right now. The other stuff doesn't matter. It's like chicken before the egg and so forth. But we've got to play better. We've got to take better care of the ball. You go on the road like we did Saturday. You turned 17 times. I mean, we made it difficult on ourselves. We've got to play better. We've got to take better care of the ball. As Scott mentioned, got to have more consistency offensively and defensively. But I do think quality offense, and you learn this more and more, I think, it affects defense as well. And I mentioned, keep alluding to the points off the turnovers. That affects our defense. So really for me, it kind of starts there, heading into this one tomorrow. It's been a big point of emphasis that we've got to, I don't want to beat ourselves. We don't want to be sloppy. We want to be more sure with the ball like we were, in the early parts of the Big Ten schedule prior to Saturday.
Coach, in your experience, it seems like win or lose, and you have a month and a half left, obviously, but win or lose, seniors start to get more urgent as they get towards the end of their career. Is there a point at which you see that coming in, either in your experience or with this team or in general?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, those guys see the hourglass sifting. You know, we use the example of we use marbles, and they give me one, and you start to realize there's not as many marbles left in your bag, you know, as the season proceeds and moves forward. And, you know, what a blessing and privilege it is to do this. You know, I talked to them yesterday about gratefulness. You know, how grateful we are to get back out here today, the opportunity to get better. Let's take advantage of it. We got another one tomorrow. You know, great opportunity. But you're right, and I do think they, you know, I think it's a big reason, you know, certainly why, you know, the Thorne and Tate have played a little bit lately, like their pants are on fire in practice and game on, and I think no question about it. I think there's a mindset to that when you're a senior, you know, and you're older. And you realize, man, that hourglass is sifting, you know. So, and I hope it does. It should, you know. It tells me it means something to them. And you know, I've heard Malcolm say things, Matt say things, really all those guys, Tracy. So, you know, they're aware of the fact that this is a special opportunity and that hourglass is sifting.
Coach, when you talk to the players about defense, they say often maybe not enough pride at that end or not enough toughness. Seem like mentality type things was maybe easier to change than ability. How do you see that? Do you feel like that's maybe the primary thing?
Well, I said last week, and I appreciate him saying that. I used to be with a guy when I was younger in AAU. I remember this one, believe it or not. I coached an AAU team way back. But the answer to this, and he was a great guy. But he always say, we just got to play harder. Yeah, we can do some of that on some possessions. I'd like to see guys do that. But at the end of the day, if you don't get back on the lift of the shot, you could have all the pride you want. They're going to score a layup. You know, if you don't jump to the ball on every possession, then a really good driver is going to drive your gap, you know, if you don't do that consistently. So it's kind of like I said last week, Derek. I do think there's a balance there. We always want to play with an edge, and play harder, and have pride, and I certainly think that's a part of it. You know, there's times, I said this even, you know, the other day when we played on Saturday. I mean, Hill made a big time block. Kip was on the floor for 2 loose balls, a couple offensive rebounds that Black got where, you know, he was physical, was all get out, snatched them, and you know, the effort looked pretty good on those possessions to me. I just think when you come down and you throw a pass into a guy's foot, or you turn the corner and kick a ball, or you know, you make a decision that's not there and throw it to the other team, like how much of that is pride, how much of that is execution, you know, making, you know, being sure, executing. So I think it's both. For me right now, I'm more erring on that because I watch it obviously in detail over and over and over, every which way but loose. To me, it's clearly more the latter. You know, being able to be resilient and mentally tough and do your job, Derek, on every possession, regardless of circumstance, and executing that. You know, I don't ever watch, you know, Malcolm or LeBron or those guys and think, man, 80% of the time, well, I ain't playing hard. I don't feel that way at all. I think they care a lot, and I think they play hard, and I do think they have pride. And I appreciate them wanting to amp that up, and hey, I'm all for it. We'll play even harder, and all that's great. But at the end of the day, I gave you the analogy of the Christmas vacation deal. They get tired of me using it over the years, but so do washing machines. They work hard too. You know, we've got to execute. We've got to execute.
John, watching your team's first 3 years, they're really good defensively, and they seem to get all those things. So what do you think the disconnect is with this group?
I think part of it, Jeremy, is, and I don't like excuses, but the staff, they're right. I mean, you know, we've got guys, it's interesting, got a very unique team. And I started thinking about it as we're preparing for Iowa, really watching their young guys. I really like their young guys. I think they're good. They're going to keep playing together, you know, obviously potentially for a very long time. And thought about last year's Iowa team and how many years in a row, you know, Utah, Woodbury, and Cassell, and I think Jock played with them for 3, and those guys played a lot of games together, man, a lot. And then, you know, here we are, this older team, and Morgan and Hill are the guys that have played with Abrams. Abrams has never played with Mike Thorne. He hasn't played with LeBron Black a whole lot. Lucas and Kipper haven't played with any of them. Tracy's never played with J. Cole. It's different, even though on paper it looks like 25, 24, older, when sometimes when you assume older team, well, these guys have been playing together forever. Well, not really, so that part has, I think the connection part, that happens through experience of playing together, I think that may be some of it. Obviously, I tried to tell you guys what Edward was doing out there. I don't think, some people certainly appreciated it. I know they did. I think others, wanted to look at the stat sheet and say, he can't do this, or he ain't scoring, or he needs to post up more, or, he erased a lot of stuff. We gotta do that more in collection now, Jeremy. He could single-handedly erase different things, so we've gotta do it more as a group.
John, how much of their offense revolves around Jock, and how do you have to stop him as a collection of guys too?
Yeah, obviously you gotta be aware of where he's at, Jim, as soon as he enters the gym. He has that type of range, that type of green light, that type of shot-making ability. I mean, he is a high-level shot maker. As high level, we played some really good ones this year, but as high-level shot makers will play, he's tremendous. At the same time, I think other guys have really grown. I mean, they got multiple guys. Bohannon can make shots. Cook's posting the ball. Pencil is a little bit as well. Get you on the glass. Bear comes in and makes, make plays. Ellingson makes threes. I mean, they've got multiple weapons. But obviously, Jock stands out when you see his points per game and what he's done on a consistent basis, not only all season but in his career. And he was tremendous last year in Indianapolis. I mean, we got out to a pretty good lead, and he went bomb. I'm watching some of the clips yesterday. I'm like, oh, those are hard shots. He can really put the ball in the hole. Got great respect for him. He's a really, really, really good player.
Hey, since you brought up Nana, what do you have to do defensively where you maybe don't have a rim protector like he was?
What I was saying earlier, kind of do it collectively. Do it as a group. Probably a little bit less room for error, and need to be able to execute what we're asking our guys to do, well. Obviously, he's a special guy. He erases not only things at the rim, but he changes coverage and different things you could do because he could move his feet, guard guards. That's unique. That's rare. But yeah, we got to do it more together. Togetherness, I think, and can't just rely on one guy with that, Scott.
What carries over from Iowa's team last year that you were looking at versus this year with a relatively younger and newer team?
Well, Jock, obviously, we've talked about him in great detail. And then systematically, they're similar. They mix up defenses quite a bit defensively, probably as much or more so than any teams in the league. And then offensively, they're going to move the ball and play together in motion and execute what they do well. And and I've seen them grow quite a bit as I've watched their clips even throughout the year. So, very, very similar, systematically, philosophically, X and O's, and then obviously Jock is kind of from a personnel standpoint, been pretty steadfast for him. But then a lot of the other players are younger guys, that have continued to improve and get better.
Coach, with Tracy, obviously, shooting slump, is he shooting it in practice to a place where you still want him to take those shots when they're open?
Absolutely. That's not going to change. That's his job. Take open shots and take care of the ball and defend. And, he knows that. The other day, he was really good defensively in the game on Saturday. Had probably as good as defensive performance that he's had in some time. Moved well. The biggest thing we're doing, Derek, at times is limiting his practice reps right now. You guys know him like I do. I mean, he'll fight me on it every once in a while, but I tell him it's my decision. You know, I think it's helped him. You know, obviously, he's been through a lot with his body, and it's our job and my job to try to put him in a position to be able to compete.
Anything else here in the room for Coach? All right.
All right, guys, enjoy the brats.
I think that's what it was. I saw buns up there, so I took a leap of faith.